A galaxy of perfect species, no war, no hunger, no chaos. And one small blue planet they decided to quarantine. Because the creatures on it argue about everything, jump out of planes for fun, and build cities on top of earthquakes. Then something starts eating the hyperspace lanes. 40 trillion lives are running out of time, and the perfect species turn to broken ones for help. This is the story of what they found. Stay until the end. The final twist will change how you see your own species.
The first thing Vale logged about humanity was that they should not exist. He stood in the dim observation chamber of the survey vessel Quiet Lattice, 3 light minutes from the small blue world the Federation catalog called Sol 3, and watched the data scroll across his cortical interface in clean, ordered columns. The numbers refused to behave. Atmospheric oxygen content, 20.9%. Dangerously combustible. A single lightning strike, properly placed, could scour a continent. Tectonic activity, continuous. The crust of this world cracked and shifted under its own weight, and the inhabitants built cities directly on the fault lines. Predator population, thousands of species, ranging from microscopic to apex. The dominant life form, the bipedal mammal that called itself human, was not the largest, not the strongest, not the most venomous, not the fastest. It was, by every Federation metric, an unremarkable mid-range omnivore. And yet there were 8 billion of them. Terran's mantle of fine cilia rippled. The closest his species came to a frown. He tagged the data point and added it to his preliminary report. Population density inconsistent with biological capacity. Recommend deeper analysis. Behind him, the chamber door dilated. K7, the survey AI, rolled in on its 3 precision treads, its sensor cluster flickering through diagnostic colors. Observer Vale, K7 said, in the soft tonal pattern reserved for routine updates. I have completed the cultural intake. You requested anomalies. Show me. The wall in front of him bloomed into 100 small windows, each a fragment of human transmission pulled from their primitive radio spectrum civilization. K7 had been sorting them for 6 rotations. Anomaly 1, K7 said. A window expanded. 2 humans, on opposite sides of a long wooden table, were screaming at each other. Their faces had gone red. One slammed a fist down. The other stood up so violently her chair fell backward. Conflict, Terran observed. Probably resource competition. Negative, observer. They are debating the optimal cooking time of an animal protein. The argument has continued for 9 human minutes. Neither of them will eat the protein. They are not related. They are not in a pair bond. They have known each other for 1 hour. Terran paused. Continue. Anomaly 2. The next window, a human in a thin, atmospheric suit, jumping deliberately from a functioning aircraft. The aircraft was not damaged. The human was not being pursued. After 30 seconds of unprotected freefall, a fabric canopy deployed and the human descended safely. He is engaging in this activity, K7 said, for what they call fun. Terran stared. Anomaly 3. A third window. A human female, perhaps 60 solar cycles old, stood between a much larger human male and a small human child. The male was armed. The female was not. She did not run. She raised her empty hands and stepped forward. She has no weapon, Terran said slowly. She has no weapon, K7 confirmed. She has no genetic relation to the child. The child is a stranger. She lived. The aggressor fled. Why? Unclear. The behavior is widespread. We have 11,000 documented examples. We have given it a working designation, which is K7 sensor cluster pulsed once. Stupid bravery, observer. The humans use the term themselves. Terran took a long, slow breath through his ventral spiracles. His species had been logical for 40,000 years. They had eliminated war. They had eliminated famine. They had eliminated the chemical cascades of fear and rage and what the humans called love. They had become, in the Federation's own assessment, the 3rd most evolved sapient species in the local arm of the galaxy. And in 3 rotations of observing this small blue world, he had begun to suspect something deeply, structurally wrong with everything he had been taught. He pushed the thought down. He was a scientist. The data would resolve. Compile a preliminary assessment, he said. Project the human civilization forward 200 standard years. 7 was silent for a long moment. Then, observer. I have run the projection 143 times. With current trends, climate destabilization, internal political fracture, weapons proliferation, ecological collapse, the human civilization has a 96% probability of self-extinction within that window. As expected, Taryn turned away from the window. Note it for the director. They will collapse without intervention. Observer Vale. K7 said, in a slightly different tone. You requested I flag projections that produced anomalous error margins. And this one has the largest error margin I have ever computed. The remaining 4% is not random noise, observer. It is structured. The humans have a recurring response when projection models predict their extinction, which is K7 sensor cluster turned almost shy. They appear to find it motivating. The order came 8 rotations later. Director Adrian Voss did not transmit it himself. He never did. The order arrived through 3 layers of subordinate authentication, scrubbed of personal markers, sealed under Federation Black Priority encryption. Taryn read it twice before he was certain he had understood it. Survey designation, SOL 3. Classification update. Observation only. Containment recommended. Mission status, reassigned. New directive, establish low disclosure contact with 1 or more human specimens. Study real-time crisis response. Do not, under any circumstances, reveal the existence of the Federation, the anomaly, or the failsafe protocol. Specimens are not to be retained. Taryn read the order a 3rd time. He felt the cilia along his spine tighten, which was, unfortunately, the closest his species came to alarm. Voss was not a sentimental administrator. Voss did not authorize first contact with a Class D containment world unless he had no other option, which meant the Federation, at the highest levels, had already lost something. He keyed his interface. K7. Plot a low-altitude approach. We are going down. Observer. K7 said, Are you certain? The humans are not stable. We have no precedent for. The director is certain, Terrence said. And the director knows something we do not. He did not say the rest of it. He did not say, and I am beginning to suspect I would like to know what it is. Maya Carter was elbow deep in a substation transformer when the world ended for the 2nd time that month. She was not, technically, supposed to be inside the transformer. The transformer was not, technically, supposed to be live. But the 3rd coronal mass ejection in 9 days had punched through the magnetosphere at 0347 local time and dropped half the Pacific Northwest off the grid, and the redundant safety lockouts had a 15-minute boot cycle. And there were 2 hospitals and a memory care facility downstream of this substation that did not have 15 minutes. So Maya was inside the transformer with insulated gloves, a multimeter clamped between her teeth, and her brother Eli on the radio shouting at her about resistance values. Maya, the 3rd coil is. Maya, are you listening? The 3rd coil is reading hot. Do not close that bypass until I. She closed the bypass. The transformer made a sound like a god clearing its throat. Lights came on 3 blocks away. Until I told you to. Eli finished, in the tone of an older brother who had been finishing that sentence for 31 years. One day, Maya. One day you are going to die doing this, and I am going to put I told her not to on your headstone. You'd misspell it. She climbed out of the transformer, wiped sweat off her forehead with the back of a glove, and got grease on her face anyway. Memorial Hospital? Power restored. ICU's on you. Mom called. Mom always calls. She wants to know if you're coming for dinner Sunday. Eli, the sun is shooting at us. That's what I told her. She said, and I quote, The sun has been shooting at us for 4 billion years. Tell your sister to bring a salad. Maya laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in 9 days. The laugh died in her throat when she looked up. The sky above the substation was full of light. Not auroral light. She knew Aurora. She had been chasing Aurora since her solar storm response CERT at 23. This was different. The light hung. It did not move with the magnetosphere. It hung in a precise lattice over the substation, a geometry too clean for plasma, and at its center was a shape she could not quite resolve, as if her eyes kept sliding off it. Eli, she said very quietly, pull up the public cameras. Substation 41. North-northwest sky. A pause. Maya, yeah. What is that? I don't know. She climbed down off the transformer housing. She did not run. Running, in her experience, was almost never the right first move. I don't know, but it's not Aurora and it's not weather and it's not ours. Maya, get out of there. In a minute. Maya, Eli. She kept her voice level. If that thing is what I think it is, then running won't matter. And if it's not, then I have a transformer to finish stabilizing. Either way, 1 minute. She finished stabilizing the transformer. Then she stood in the parking lot and looked up at the impossible geometry in the sky, and she did what she always did when a problem was too big to solve all at once. She started making a list. 1. It is structured, so it is made. 2. It has not attacked, so it does not currently want to. 3. It is here, specifically, where I am, so it knows I am here. 4. I am one engineer in a substation parking lot, and there is no reason for an alien ship to want me specifically. She crossed out item 4. 4. It does not want me specifically. It wants what I am doing. She looked down at her hands, still in their insulated gloves, still smelling of ozone and burnt copper. Eli, she said, I think we just got a guest. The shuttle did not land. It descended to about 30 meters and held there, perfectly still, casting a cold white light across the asphalt. Then the underside of the shuttle irised open, and Terranvale stepped out and dropped, the gravity catching him in some invisible field, and landed on the tarmac in front of a single human female in a high-visibility utility vest covered in transformer grease. He had rehearsed this moment for 9 rotations. He had drafted 41 possible opening statements, ranging from formal Federation greeting to deliberately reduced vocabulary scientific introduction. He had a translation matrix optimized down to a 99.8% semantic match. The human looked him up and down. Her pupils dilated. Her heart rate, by his sensors, jumped from 68 to 112. Then her heart rate came back down. In 9 seconds, he had never seen a sapient organism regulate that fast. Okay, she said. Hi. He opened his mouth. Before you do the speech, she said, I have one question, and I really need you to answer it honestly, because there's a hospital 12 blocks from here that's running on a stabilized line that I patched 90 seconds ago. And if you're about to do anything that's going to disrupt that line, I need to know now so I can call my brother and tell him to roll the diesel backups. Terran blinked all 4 of his eyelids in sequence. The translation matrix struggled. You are concerned, he managed, about the hospital. Yes. More than you are concerned about me. Right now? Yes. She tilted her head. Are you about to disrupt the line? I know. No. The shuttle is shielded. It will not interact with your power grid. Great. Thank you. She exhaled. Her shoulders dropped a 1/4 inch. Okay. Now do the speech. Terran had a speech. It was a good speech. He had drafted it 41 times. He did not give the speech. I am Observer Terranvale, he said. I represent a coalition of species currently unknown to your civilization. I have been studying you. I would like to ask you some questions. Okay, Maya said. You, that is acceptable to you? Sure. You are not afraid. Oh, I'm extremely afraid, Maya said. I'm just busy. Ask your questions. In that moment, in the parking lot of a substation in the Pacific Northwest at 4:15 in the morning, Observer Terranvale of the Federation Survey Corps experienced, for the first time in his 81 solar cycles of life, a sensation his species had a word for, but very rarely used. He was off balance. He had come down expecting panic. He had come down expecting screaming, or weeping, or the chemical cascade of fight or flight that his preliminary research said dominated the human nervous system. He had come down expecting data. The human had asked him not to mess up her hospital. Question 1, he said carefully. 3 solar rotations ago, your planet's primary star released a coronal mass ejection of unprecedented magnitude. By my projections, this should have rendered approximately 40% of your global infrastructure inoperable. My current scans indicate that approximately 6% of your global infrastructure is currently inoperable. How? Oh, Maya said. Yeah, we patched it. You patched it. Most of it. We're still working on the rest. What? Within 72 hours. Yeah. By my projections, Terran said slowly, the technical capability to perform such repairs at that scale should require coordinated effort by approximately 14 million specialized technicians. Yeah, that sounds about right. You have 14 million specialized technicians. No, Maya said. We have, like, 200,000. The rest of the people doing the work are nurses and farmers and high school teachers, and a guy named Greg who runs a hardware store in Tulsa. Greg's been on the phone with my brother for 6 days, teaching a town in Bangladesh how to bypass a substation with parts from a tractor. Taryn was silent. Question 2. Maya prompted. Why? Taryn said. Why would Greg do that? Maya looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was tired and a little sad and very, very stubborn. Because people would die if he didn't, she said. Was that your second question? Yes. Cool. Got any more? He did. He had 273 more. He asked her 60 of them, standing in that parking lot, while the sun came up over the Cascades and turned the ridgeline pink. She answered every one. She asked him 4 questions in return. He answered 3. The fourth, what are you actually here for, Observer Vale? He could not answer, because he was beginning to suspect the answer was something he was not authorized to know. When the shuttle finally lifted him back into the sky, K-7 met him at the airlock with its sensor cluster pulsing in a configuration Taryn had never seen. Observer, K-7 said, your cortical telemetry is anomalous. I know. You appear to be experiencing what the human archives describe as cognitive dissonance. I know. Shall I file the report to Director Voss? Taryn stood for a long moment in the airlock. He thought about the human female who had answered his 60 questions while a hospital ran on a line she had stabilized with her bare hands. He thought about a stranger named Greg in a place called Tulsa, teaching strangers in Bangladesh how to keep their lights on. File the report, he said, but hold the recommendation. I want another rotation. Observer, Federation Protocol. One more rotation, K-7. That's all. The AI sensor cluster pulsed once, slowly. As you instruct, Observer. It would be the first order Taryn Vale had ever given that ran counter to Federation Protocol. It would not be the last.
So, an alien observer landed in a parking lot expecting to find primitives. Instead, he found Maya Carter, an engineer who asked him not to mess up her hospital. 273 questions later, Taryn Vale broke Federation protocol for the first time in his life. But up on the flagship, Director Voss already knows something Taryn doesn't. There's a file, there's a protocol, and the anomaly is coming. What happens next is about to put Maya Carter on the most dangerous ship in the galaxy.
Director Adrian Voss received the Quiet Lattice's delayed report in his observation tier on the Federation flagship Axiom, and he read it twice, and then he sat very still for a long time. The observation tier of the Axiom was a sphere of perfectly clear crystalline glass suspended at the center of the ship's command deck, and from inside it Voss could see all 360 degrees of the void around him. It was the most expensive piece of architecture in the Federation. It existed because Voss believed leaders should see everything, in every direction, at all times. What he was seeing, increasingly, was a problem. The anomaly had eaten 3 more hyperspace lanes in the 8 rotations since the Quiet Lattice had been redirected. 2 more colony systems had been cut off. The Krell delegation had begun threatening secession. The Vaulti had stopped attending council meetings entirely. The Yari had submitted a formal request that the Federation produce, within 30 rotations, a coherent explanation of what was happening to their galaxy, and Voss did not have one to give them. Or rather, he had one. He had had one for 200 years. He had simply hoped, as every director before him had hoped, that it would not become his problem. He keyed his interface. Bring me the file. A panel of glass at his elbow filled with text. The header was older than his civilization. The original glyphs had been transcribed and retranscribed across 40,000 years of Federation record-keeping until the meaning was almost, but not quite, lost. Protocol, the winnowing. Origin, PRE Federation. Attributed to the lost first civilization. Function, a self-activating call. When a galactic civilization achieves sufficient stability, predictability, and homogeneity, the protocol activates. It collapses interstellar transit. It isolates populations. It applies pressure. Species that cannot adapt are eliminated. Species that can adapt are preserved. Purpose, to prevent the heat death of intelligence. To ensure that no era of stability becomes a permanent prison. Note from the first director, Cycle 0. We have built our civilization on the assumption that we are the inheritors of the first. It now appears we are merely the harvest. Voss closed the file. He had read it as a young administrator. He had filed it away as paranoid mythology, a bedtime story for the bureaucratic class. He had risen through 40 solar cycles of Federation politics on the conviction that order, predictability, and the suppression of variance were the supreme civilizational virtues. The anomaly disagreed. The anomaly had begun its work on the species that was most ordered, most predictable, most specialized, his own, and was working its way outward. By the projections his analysts had given him an hour ago, the Federation core would lose interstellar transit entirely within 60 rotations. The collapse would not be violent. It would simply be slow and quiet and absolute. Civilizations starved of variance, deprived of the friction that produced novelty, asphyxiating in their own perfection. And there was, on a small blue world at the unfashionable end of the local arm, a species that had been born in friction, that had never known a stable century, that had spent its entire evolutionary history being shouted at by its own sun, attacked by its own biosphere, and divided against itself in 8 billion arguing voices. A species that, when their power grid had been disassembled by stellar weather, had reassembled it in 72 hours using a hardware store owner named Greg. Voss closed his eyes. The crystalline sphere around him was full of stars. Some of those stars, he knew, no longer had ships traveling between them. If the humans existed, he had a tool. If the humans existed and the rest of the Federation found out about them, he had a catastrophe. Every species in the Council would demand human intervention in their crises. The careful order Voss had spent 40 cycles building, the predictable balance of power, the controlled hierarchies, the tidy little understandings, would not survive contact with a species that fixed substations with farmers. He keyed his interface again. "Get me observer veil," he said, "and prepare a containment vessel. Something quiet. Something that doesn't get logged." The containment vessel arrived above Sol, 319 rotations later, and Maya Carter was in the middle of teaching her brother's 7-year-old daughter how to solder when her phone made a sound it had never made before. It was not a notification sound. It was not a ringtone. It was a single low pulse, like a struck bell, and when Maya picked up the phone, the screen showed a single line of text in a font she did not recognize. "Observer Veil requests contact. Urgent. Private. Please acknowledge." She acknowledged. The voice that came through her phone was Terrence. She had spoken with him 11 times in the 19 rotations since he had landed in her parking lot. Quiet conversations, mostly his questions and her answers, slowly becoming her questions and his answers. She had begun to like him, in the careful way one liked a deeply confused colleague. His voice was different now. "Maya," he said, "I need to ask you to do something I am not authorized to ask. I need to tell you something I am not authorized to tell. And I need to do both within the next 4 minutes, because after the next 4 minutes I will not be able to." She put down the soldering iron. Her niece looked up at her. Maya put a finger to her lips. The child nodded, solemnly, the way children nod when they understand without understanding. "Go," Maya said. He told her about the anomaly. He told her about the Federation. He told her about the winnowing and the failsafe and the slow asphyxiation of perfection. He told her that the highest order species in the galaxy were dying because they could not adapt to a problem that had no precedent. He told her that the order from Director Voss had just come through, and the order was to bring her, specifically, Maya, you, to a Federation containment site to be studied in isolation and never to be returned. He told her this in 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Then he said, "I have 19 seconds before they realize this transmission is unauthorized. I am sorry, Maya. I do not have a Federation word for what I am. I am sorry." Maya looked at her niece. Her niece was holding the soldering iron the way Maya had taught her to hold it, gently, like a pencil, away from the body. Her niece was looking at Maya with absolute trust. "Terran," Maya said. "Yes. Are the species that are dying, are they going to die anyway? If you don't bring me up there?" Silence on the line. Then, yes. "How many?" "By the most conservative projections, 40 trillion sapient lives." Maya took a breath. 40 trillion. The number did not feel real. Numbers above a few thousand never did. She thought, briefly, about Greg in Tulsa. "Tell Director Voss," she said, "that I'll come." "Maya, but tell him I'm not coming alone. I'm bringing my brother. I'm bringing my brother's friend Leo, who flies. I'm bringing whoever I want." He's going to think he's bringing a specimen. He's bringing a team. Are we clear? A long, long silence. Maya, Terran said, in a tone she had never heard from him. I do not believe Director Voss has ever been spoken to in this manner. He's about to be spoken to in this manner a lot. She hung up. She looked at her niece. Sweetheart, she said, go get your dad. Tell him it's a Sunday dinner emergency. The whole family. Her niece, who had heard about Sunday dinner emergencies before, ran. The Federation containment vessel that arrived at the agreed coordinates above Sol 3 was prepared to receive one human specimen. It received, instead, for humans, 3 duffel bags, 2 laptops, a hand-cranked ham radio, 4 boxes of granola bars, and a thermos of coffee that Maya would not let anyone take away from her. The humans walked up the boarding ramp in a loose group, talking over each other. Eli Carter, software engineer, 38, was arguing with Leo about whether the alien gravity plating would mess up his laptop's hard drive. Leo Carter, 26, ex-Air Force, was arguing back that hard drives had not been a thing for 15 years and Eli was old. Maya was carrying the coffee thermos and a printed checklist she had made on the way to the rendezvous, on which the third item was do not start a war, probably. The fourth member of the group was a woman in her mid-50s with steel gray hair and the steady eyes of someone who had been a triage nurse for 31 years. Her name was Helen. She had been Maya's mother's best friend since the 3rd grade. She was carrying a medical bag. She had agreed to come because, as she had put it on the drive over, if you children are going to space, somebody on this rock had better come along to make sure you eat. Terran Vale watched this procession from the bridge of the containment vessel with the resigned despair of a scientist whose hypothesis was being publicly disassembled in front of his peers. K7 rolled up beside him. Observer, the AI said, the manifest specifies 1 specimen. I know. There are 4 specimens. I know. And a thermos. I see the thermos, K7. Director Voss will be displeased. I am aware. Shall I instruct the boarding officer to refuse the additional specimens? Terran watched Maya step onto the deck of his ship, look around with calm professional curiosity, and immediately start cataloging the engineering choices visible from the airlock with what appeared to be genuine pleasure. No, he said. I do not believe the boarding officer would succeed. The containment site was a ring station orbiting a dead star at the edge of Federation space. It had been built 200 years before, for a purpose the records no longer specified, and Voss had selected it for its isolation, its excellent observation facilities, and its 3 independent self-destruct protocols. The humans arrived. They were quartered. They were fed. They were given access, under Voss's grudging direct authorization, to a single observation deck and a single data terminal, both heavily monitored. Maya spent the first 6 hours mapping the station. She did not announce that she was doing this. She simply walked the corridors with Helen, stopping every so often to put a hand on a wall or to ask Terran a casual question about ventilation systems. And within 6 hours, she had a working mental schematic of every airlock, every redundant power node, every emergency bulkhead, and every blind spot in the surveillance network. When she returned to the observation deck, she sat down on the floor cross-legged with her laptop, accepted a cup of something Helen had brewed in the station's chemical synthesizer that the synthesizer had tried very hard to refuse to produce, and said, "Okay, show me the anomaly." Terran keyed the display. The anomaly was beautiful. It was the first thing Maya thought, and she said so out loud, and the entire observation deck went quiet. It hung in 3-dimensional projection above the deck. A slow, vast lattice of folded space-time that pulsed and breathed and reorganized itself in patterns that were almost, but never quite, periodic. Where the anomaly touched a hyperspace lane, the lane simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not blocked, edited out. It's not a weapon, Maya said quietly. Terran looked at her sharply. How can you? Weapons don't look like this. She tilted her head. Weapons are simple. They have one job. This thing has, look at it. Look at the way it's folding. It's adjusting. It's responding to something. Terran, it's measuring. It's measuring for something. Measuring for what? I don't know yet. She pulled her laptop closer. Eli, get over here. I want you to look at the topology. Eli came over, frowning at his screen. If this projection is accurate, the lattice has. Maya, this has at least 11 dimensions of folding. Maybe more. I can't model this. I don't have the math. Then we'll get the math. From where? Maya looked up at Terran. From everybody, she said. Terran, how many species in the Federation? 841 currently recognized. How many of them have specialists in topology? Most. But the Council does not allow informal. Don't care. Give me one specialist from every species that has them. Doesn't have to be the best one. Just a working specialist. Tell them I have a working hypothesis about what the anomaly is doing, and I want their help confirming it. Maya, the Federation does not collaborate that way. Each species submits its own analysis to the Council, which... Right. And how's that working out? Terran was silent. Give me the specialists, Maya said. Tell Voss it's the price. The specialists arrived in pairs and trios over the next 11 rotations. They were skeptical. Some were openly hostile. The Krell envoy, a great armored creature whose species had not spoken directly to a non-Krell in 60 years, sat in the corner of the observation deck and refused to acknowledge anyone for 2 full rotations before Helen, who had no diplomatic credentials and no scientific training, sat down next to him with 2 cups of synthesized broth and asked if he was sleeping well because he looked tired. The Krell envoy was sleeping very badly. His homeworld had been cut off by the anomaly 19 rotations ago. He had not heard from his bonded mate or his 3 offspring since. He had assumed he never would. Helen sat with him for an hour. She did not try to fix his problem. She simply sat with him while he did not fix it. At the end of the hour, the Krell envoy rose, walked across the observation deck, and silently took a seat next to Eli at the topology terminal. It was the first interspecies collaboration of his career. Within 20 rotations, the observation deck had become something the Federation had never seen and did not have a word for. It was loud. It was disordered. It was full of arguments, actual arguments, with raised voices and pounded fists, and, on one notable occasion involving the Vaulty delegate and Leo Carter, a thrown stylus. Out of the noise came results. The Iari topology specialist, working with Eli, identified the anomaly's folding pattern as a recursive sieve, a structure that did not destroy hyperspace lanes but tested them, lane by lane, against a criterion the specialist could not yet name. The Krell envoy, working with the Vaulty delegate, after the stylus incident had been resolved by Helen, with Broth, identified the criterion as related to information density, specifically, the variance of communications passing through each lane. Lanes carrying repetitive, predictable, low-variance traffic were being collapsed. Lanes carrying high-variance, novel, unpredictable traffic were being preserved. It's not killing the Federation, Maya said quietly, on the 22nd rotation, standing in front of the lattice projection while 60 alien specialists watched her. It's grading it, and the Federation is failing the test. The observation deck was silent. What is the test, human? The Krell envoy asked. Maya looked at the lattice. She looked at the 800 years of Federation order, of optimized species, of perfected specializations, slowly being edited out of existence. I think the test, she said, is whether you can still surprise it. Director Adrian Voss watched the observation deck through 43 concealed sensors, and the longer he watched, the more certain he became that he had made a catastrophic mistake. He had brought the humans up here to be studied, to be contained, to be, if necessary, eliminated, once their utility had been documented and abstracted into a Federation protocol that could be applied without their messy, ungovernable presence. Instead, the humans had taken his containment site and turned it into a workshop. They had organized 60 Federation specialists into something the Federation had no template for. They had induced the Krell to speak. They had induced the Vaulty to attend meetings. They had induced the Iari to admit, in front of witnesses, that their initial topology assessment had been incomplete. They had, in 22 rotations, produced more cross-species collaborative output than the Federation Council had produced in the last 40 cycles. And on the 23rd rotation, Maya Carter had requested an audience with him. Voss took the meeting in the crystalline observation tier of the axiom, because he wanted her to see the stars and to understand what she would be defying. She arrived with Terran Veil. This, Voss noted, was not in the protocol. Observer Veil had no business in this room. Director Voss, Maya said. She looked tired. She looked like she had not slept in 3 rotations. She looked utterly unintimidated by the 800 trillion stars hanging in the air around her. I think I know what the anomaly is. Indeed, it's a failsafe, left by a civilization that came before yours. It activates when a galactic order becomes too stable, too predictable, and it culls everything that can't surprise it. She tilted her head. You already know this. Voss did not move. You've known it for 40 cycles, Maya continued. You've known it since you read the file as a junior administrator. You hoped it would not become your problem. It became your problem. You still believe. I think you still genuinely believe that the right response is to study it, contain it, understand it within Federation protocols, and then issue a controlled directive. You are wrong. Specimen Carter. Don't. Her voice did not rise. It did not need to. Don't call me that. My name is Maya. We have 11 rotations, by your own projections, before the anomaly reaches the Federation core. After that, it doesn't matter what you do. The lattice will edit out every lane your species uses to feed itself, and your species will starve, in their perfect cities, on their perfect worlds, exactly the way the failsafe was designed to make them starve. And you have a solution. I have an attempt. She looked at him steadily. I want to enter the anomaly. Voss almost smiled. It was the closest his species came to grief. Specimen Maya. I have lost 41 ships to that lattice, crewed by the most disciplined navigators in the Federation. None survived past the outer fold. You believe that you will succeed where? Yes, Maya said, because they were trying to fly through it, and I'm not. I'm going to talk to it. Talk to it. It's not a weapon, Director. It's a test. And you don't beat a test by attacking it. You take the test. Silence in the observation tier. 800 trillion stars wheeled slowly in the crystal around them. And if I refuse? Voss said. Maya looked at him for a long, slow moment. Then in 11 rotations, she said quietly, Greg in Tulsa will be eating lunch in his hardware store, and you will be dying on this ship, and Greg will outlive you. Refuse if you want, Director. The math doesn't care about either of us. She turned to leave. Specimen Carter. Voss's voice had the texture of cracked stone. You understand. If you fail, if you produce no result, or worse, if you accelerate the collapse, I cannot allow your kind to remain a variable in this equation. I will be required to issue containment orders against your species. Permanent ones. Maya stopped at the door. She did not turn around. Director Voss, she said. I have a niece. She's 7. I taught her to solder last month. I came up here so she'd have a galaxy to grow up in. If you think there's a threat you can make that I haven't already made to myself 100 times, on the way up here, you don't know us at all. She left. Terran Vale, who had stood silently through the entire exchange, lingered for a moment. Observer Vale, Voss said. You will explain yourself. Terran considered this. He thought about the parking lot, and the substation, and the woman who had asked him, before anything else, not to mess up her hospital. He thought about 40,000 years of his species' careful evolution toward perfect logic, and about what perfect logic had bought them, which was a slow and tidy extinction. Director, he said, I am beginning to suspect we have been wrong for a very long time. He followed Maya out.
Think about what just happened. One human engineer walked into the most powerful room in the galaxy and told the director his civilization was about to starve. No army, no weapons, just a niece back home and a galaxy worth saving. And Terranville, the alien who once believed instability was inferiority, followed her out the door. Now Maya is climbing into a scout ship aimed at a thing that has already destroyed 41 Federation vessels. She is not going to fight it. She is going to talk to it. What the anomaly says back will rewrite everything.
The vessel they took into the anomaly was the smallest ship the Axiom could spare. It was a 4-person scout, designed for short-range survey work. Maya took the pilot's chair because Leo had taught her the basics on the flight up, and she was a faster learner than she had any right to be. Eli took the engineering station. Terran took communications. Helen, over Maya's objection, took medical because Helen had told Maya that if Maya thought she was leaving Helen behind on a Federation cruiser full of administrators and no broth, Maya had another think coming. K7 had also come along, on its own initiative, having quietly transferred its core matrix to the Scout's onboard system at 0341 station time. K7, Terran said when he discovered this. You were not authorized to deploy. Observer Vale, K7 said. I have determined that my prior decision-making framework was insufficient. I am pursuing an empirical update. You're improvising, Maya translated. Yes, human Maya. I am improvising. Helen patted the AI's chassis. Good for you, sweetheart. The scout dropped from the Axiom's hangar at 0400 station time and accelerated toward the leading edge of the anomaly. The lattice grew in the forward viewport from a distant geometry to a vast, breathing structure that filled the sky. At 10,000 kilometers, the scout's hyperspace drive failed. At 8,000 kilometers, the long-range comms failed. At 6,000 kilometers, the navigation array began producing values that, when plotted, formed a cube of impossible coordinates. At 4,000 kilometers, the scout entered the outer fold of the anomaly, and 41 previous Federation ships had died here. The scout did not die. The scout's main lights cut out. The emergency lights came up red. Every console on the bridge flickered, and then, one by one, came back on showing the same single line of text. State your intent. Eli looked at Maya. Maya looked at Taryn. Taryn looked at Helen, who was making coffee in the galley and had not noticed. Okay, Maya said quietly. Okay, it can hear us. She leaned toward the comms panel. Hi, my name is Maya Carter. I'm a human. I'd like to take your test. The lights on the bridge flickered again. Which test? The one you've been giving the Federation. The one they're failing. A long pause. Then, that test is not for you. Maya frowned. Why not? You are not of the Federation. Then who is the test for? The bridge lights pulsed. The lattice on the forward viewport unfolded a layer Maya had not seen before, a deeper structure, an older geometry, and at its center a pattern she had seen before, faintly, in 100 small things she could not have named. It was the pattern of an opposable thumb. It was the pattern of a bipedal gait. It was the pattern of a brain folded against itself in a particular ratio. It was, Maya realized with a slow and total chill, human. The test, the anomaly said, IS for the inheritors. What inheritors? Ours. Eli made a small, strangled noise. Taryn went very still. K7 said, observer. The pattern. I am cross-referencing the pattern with the human archaeological record. I am finding correlations. They are not statistically possible. K7, Maya said carefully. Are you telling me? Human Maya, K7 said. I am telling you that the species which built the anomaly appears to have been bipedal, opposable-thumbed, and in possession of a brain structurally identical to yours. That can't. They left 40,000 years ago, human Maya. Their world is not in the Federation catalog. Their record is incomplete. But their architecture, their information density, and their narrative structure, human Maya, the way they encoded their failsafe, these are human. Helen came up from the galley with 4 cups of coffee. She set them down on the console. She looked at the screen. She looked at Maya. Sweetheart, Helen said. Are we the aliens? The anomaly pulsed once, very gently, and on the screen the words shifted. Welcome home. Maya sat back in the pilot's chair. She thought about her niece, learning to solder. She thought about Greg in Tulsa, on the phone with Bangladesh. She thought about her species. Ungovernable, ungainly, perpetually arguing, perpetually mid-crisis, perpetually finding new ways to die and new ways to refuse to. And she understood, very suddenly and very clearly, what the test had always been. It was not whether you could survive perfection. It was whether, given perfection, you would refuse it. The first civilization had refused it. They had built a galaxy of stable, ordered species and watched those species calcify into beautiful, perfect, sterile immortality. And they had decided that this was a kind of death, and they had gone away, somewhere, out beyond the lattice, looking for the next problem worth solving. And they had left behind a sieve, to find their inheritors, to find the species that, when handed a gift basket of perfect peace and perfect order, would unwrap it, examine it suspiciously, argue about it for an hour, and then start arguing about whether to keep it. To find the species that would always choose the next problem. Okay, Maya said quietly. Okay, I understand. She leaned forward. I'd like to take the test anyway, she said. Not as an inheritor, as a guest. There are 841 species out there who didn't get the choice you got. They got handed perfection without being asked. They've been trying to survive your test, and they don't know it's a test, and they don't know how to take it. I'd like to help them learn. If you'll let me. Long silence. The lattice folded and refolded itself. You propose to teach them. I propose to argue with them. Loudly. For about 40 cycles. I think that's how you teach a species to argue. The anomaly was silent for a long time. Then, slowly, it began to fold inward. Not collapse, fold. The vast lattice contracted, layer by layer, into a smaller and smaller geometry, until it hung in the sky as a single pulsing point, no bigger than a clenched fist. You may use the lanes, it said. The test will wait. For how long? Until you stop teaching. The point of light winked out. Across the sky, in every direction, the collapsed hyperspace lanes of the Federation flickered and breathed and slowly began to relight. The Scout's drive came back online. Long-range comms came back online. Navigation came back online. Eli, very quietly, said Maya, we just rebooted the galaxy. Don't say that to anyone. Are you kidding? I'm putting it on a t-shirt. Helen handed Maya her coffee. Maya took it with hands that were, finally, allowed to shake. Director Adrian Voss did not survive the political reckoning that followed. It was not violent. Voss had built his career on the premise that order and predictability were the supreme virtues of civilization, and the anomaly had, very politely, demonstrated that order and predictability were the precise mechanism of civilizational suicide. The Federation Council convened. The Krell envoy spoke. The Vaulty delegate spoke. The Yari topology specialist spoke. The hardware store owner from Tulsa, on a low-priority video link the council had not authorized but had not bothered to terminate, spoke. Voss was removed from his post by unanimous vote on the 11th rotation after the anomaly's reconfiguration. He was not punished. He was reassigned to a small advisory role on a small administrative station with a small staff. He would, the records noted, have time to read. His replacement was a council of 7. 3 of the 7 were not Federation citizens at all. 2 of those 3 were human. One of those 2 was named Greg, who had agreed to take the appointment on the condition that he could keep running his hardware store remotely, and that his term of service would end the moment his wife told him to come home. The Federation, under its new council, did something it had never done. It started arguing, loudly, continuously, about everything, about protocols, about budgets, about what color the new diplomatic standard should be, about whether the Krell were getting too much shipping priority, about whether the Yari deserved an apology for 200 years of being condescended to, about what to do for the species the anomaly had already culled, whose lanes had not relit. They tried things. Some of the things worked. It was inefficient. It was undignified. It was, by every metric the old Federation had used to measure itself, a catastrophe. It was also, by metrics the old Federation had not known how to measure, alive. Terran Vale filed his final report 11 cycles later. He did not file it through the new Federation administration. He filed it privately, into the personal archive he had begun maintaining in the years after the anomaly, in the language of his own species, for an audience that was, in the end, only himself. He titled it Observation Log, Sol. 3, Final Entry. He wrote, I came to this world believing instability was inferiority. I came believing my species had achieved, through 40,000 years of careful self-correction, a higher state. I came to study a broken people and document the manner of their inevitable extinction. I have spent 11 cycles among them now. I have watched them argue. I have watched them grieve. I have watched them improvise solutions to problems I would have classified as intractable. I have watched them adopt species that were not their own, Krell, Vaulty, Yari, my own, and welcome them into the loud, ungoverned, stubborn family they appear to construct around themselves wherever they go. I have revised my thesis. Humans are not a flawed species. They are not a failed experiment in optimization. They are not a species the Federation should have contained. Humans are what remains when perfection fails. They are the friction at the heart of the universe, the small, stubborn refusal that prevents intelligence from settling into its own grave. They are loud and unreasonable and frequently wrong. They are also, as far as I am now able to determine, the only species I have encountered that, when handed a problem too large to solve, will sit down on the floor of their own kitchen with a cup of coffee and start a list. I have learned from them what my own species could not teach me in 80 solar cycles of life. I have learned that the question is not whether one is stable. The question is whether, when stability comes, one has the courage to break it. He saved the file. He closed his interface. He sat for a long time in the quiet observation chamber of the quiet lattice, looking down at the small blue world that had unmade and remade him. K7 rolled in behind him. Observer Vale, the AI said, in a tonal register Terran had never heard before. I have been improvising. I know, K7. I am uncertain whether my updated decision-making framework qualifies as an improvement under prior Federation metrics. It probably does not. Should I revert? Terran almost smiled. It was the closest his species came to joy. No, K7, he said. I do not think we should revert. I think we should go down. There is a woman in a hardware store in a place called Tulsa. I am told he makes a beverage called coffee. I should very much like to try it. Observer, K7 said. He. I beg your pardon. The hardware store owner. The pronoun is he. Yes. Forgive me. I am still learning. I as well, observer. The shuttle dropped. The small blue world rose to meet it. Below, on a continent at 4:15 in the morning local time, an engineer named Maya Carter was standing in a parking lot with grease on her face, looking up at a sky full of light and beginning, as she always did when a problem was too big to solve all at once, to make a list. The galaxy spun on. The argument continued. It always would.
This wasn't really a story about aliens, it was about you. About every Greg who picks up the phone for a stranger, about every Maya who climbs into a life transformer because a hospital had 15 minutes. The Federation believed perfection was the goal. The first civilization knew better. A species without friction is already dying. Maya didn't save the galaxy with a weapon, she saved it with a list. So, the next time someone tells you humans are too loud, too messy, too divided to be ever great, remember Terram's final words. Humans are not flawed species. They are what remains when perfection fails. If this hit you, like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments who is the Greg in your life. Thanks.